Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sheikh Al-Hawsani, and I'm the Acting Director of the Monitoring and Analysis Division in the Environment Agency, Abu Dhabi. Thank you for giving me the opportunity today to give you an idea about the air quality program in Abu Dhabi Emirate. Starting with this map, EAD has a network to monitor air quality in the different regions of the Emirate. It consists of 10 monitoring stations, fixed stations, distributed in Abu Dhabi City, Al Ain City, and the Western region. On those stations, we are monitoring the air pollutants that mentioned in the Ministerial Decree number 12, and they are the PM10, the SOx, NOx, CO, and the ozone. And for some of them, we started also to monitor the PM2.5 as a pilot phase, and inshallah, in next year, we're going to have the PM2.5 monitoring continuously in all the monitoring stations in Abu Dhabi Emirate. The data that we are collecting from the different monitoring stations are disseminated and reported or uploaded in the air quality website. And this website, we show the air quality index for the different regions. So for example, if we have high reading on the PM10 in some areas, we inform the public that in those areas we're going to have a high level of PM10. So for those people who are suffering, for example, from allergy or asthma, they should take some precautions. And we're also publishing some news and different initiatives that we're doing in the air quality department as well. In order to have a comprehensive picture about air quality in Abu Dhabi Emirate, we have also started an initiative to establish electronic linking with all air monitoring networks that are owned by other governmental entities. For example, we have signed an MOUs with the ADWIA, Abu Dhabi Electricity and Water Authority, to link with their air monitoring stations that are distributed within the power plant sector. We have also signed an MOU with Zonescope. Zonescope is the industrial concerned authority in Abu Dhabi Emirate, and they are also monitoring air within the industrial zones. We have also linked with the Ministry of Water and Environment and also with Dubai Municipality. The objective here is to have a national network to monitor air quality in the country. We are also in the process of expanding our network in Abu Dhabi Emirate because given the economic growth and the huge evolution in Abu Dhabi Emirate and all areas like the industrial, the development, the tourism, and the surface transport also. So we have identified the new hot areas that need to be covered also as part of our expansion based on different factors. Some of these factors are the pollution source and meteorological data, the Master Plan 2030 of Abu Dhabi Emirate, the Strategic Plan for Abu Dhabi Emirate 2030, Land Transport Plan, and the population distribution information, as well as the distribution of residential areas, development, industrial, tourist, and major roads, and other stakeholders' air quality monitoring networks in the Emirate, which I have talked about previously. So those are the main factors that we have taken in consideration when we have identified the new areas for the new stations. This is a map that shows the new stations locations for the monitoring stations in Abu Dhabi City, Al Ain City, and the Western region. One of the objectives of our expansion is also to focus more on the Western region, given that the majority of our oil and gas activities are placed in the Western region. Another initiative that the agency is leading is the standardization process. Given the pioneering role of the Environment Agency in the country, we started to have built a standardization unit. This unit is working as a national reference for all air quality monitoring stations, operators in the Emirate, to ensure the quality of the information that is collected from the networks and ensure compliance with the requirements of a global organization and relevant reports. We have also developed a technical quality management manual, and we have also uploaded it so that all the operators can follow the procedures. And we are also in the process of getting or obtaining the accreditation 17025, because the objective here is to have a high reliable data for the air quality. And inshallah, this is the starting step, and then we will enforce all governmental entities to have the same accreditation, because if we have a different level of consistency between the data that we are collecting, then there will be no point of all abatement policies or strategies that we're going to enforce in the future. The inventories, this is a key project that the agency is establishing every 3 years. So we do the emission inventory for the 3 key sectors: the industrial sector, the transportation, and the energy sector. The agency started an initiative to establish a greenhouse gas emissions inventory for Abu Dhabi Emirate. And it's important to highlight here that the UAE is already reporting on the GHG inventory at the national level to the UNFCCC. But the agency is doing the inventory for only Abu Dhabi Emirate, given that Abu Dhabi Emirate is the leading emirate, and it has 70 to 80% of the economy of the country. So the objective here is to establish a solid foundation at which we're going to build our mitigations policies for the GHG in the coming years. So we are in the process of the data compilation from the different sectors. We are following the IPCC guidelines, and we're going to cover those sectors mentioned in the IPCC. So those will be the energy sector, industrial sector, land use, agriculture sector, and waste sector. And the inventory will cover the direct core gases, the CO2, CH4, N2O, PFCs, and HFCs, and CF6, as well as the secondary gases. So this is a figure that explains the different sectors we're going to cover as part of the GHG inventory. Another initiative is the Higher Committee of Air Quality. Given that air quality is one of the very cross-cutting issues in the environmental themes, it needs contribution of all the governmental entities and sectors in order to have tangible results. So Abu Dhabi government established what they call the Higher Committee of Air Quality, and the members in this committee are the Ministry of Water and Environment, Department of Transport, municipalities, Emirates Authority for Specifications and Standardization, and also Abu Dhabi Police Department. One of the initiatives, the key initiatives that the air quality supervised or initiated is the compressed natural gas, the usage of compressed natural gas as alternative fuel in Abu Dhabi Emirate. So we established 22 standard specifications for the materials and the devices that use the systems to convert vehicles to natural gas, the gas filling stations and the conversion workshops. We have already built the infrastructure that consists of 11 filling stations in Abu Dhabi Emirate, 2 stations in Al Ain, and 4 in Sharjah. And to support this project in terms of enforcement, we have worked closely with Abu Dhabi Executive Council to issue a decree that obligates all or enforces the usage of compressed natural gases on the governmental fleets by 25% before end of 2012. To support the project and to encourage the private sector to engage in that project, we have also worked with the Supreme Petroleum Council to reduce the pricing of CNG value to 1.28 dirhams per kilogram. That is equivalent to 4 dirhams as a gallon. We have also started to issue promotional incentives, like, for example, to reduce or to cancel the importing fees for the CNG vehicles. And also we have also issued a decree to reduce the insurance charge by 25% for the CNG vehicles. It's important to highlight here that this project is being executed by ADNOC Distribution and Gasco companies under the supervision of the Air Quality Committee. Another initiative is the use of ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel, 10 ppm, by 2012. Actually, we are in the last phases. This project is led by Takrir, one of the ADNOC group companies. And the target here is to start using or introducing 100% clean diesel fuel, 10 ppm. That is very low sulfur content in the diesel. So this is also one of the key initiatives for the committee. I think that was brave, and I tried to be very quick because I know most of you are exhausted and want to go home, so that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Engineer Sheikh Ahmed, for this interesting subject and interesting lecture as well. Please, if you have any question for Sheikh. Yes, please. Dr. Dawood. Microphone, please.
Thanks, Sheikh. Actually, having this memorandum of understanding between us and ADWIA, and also the program for GHG inventory, do we have figures about how much is the emission from the power and desalination plants in Abu Dhabi?
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. I can say that we have general estimated figures. It is part of the modeling exercise that we have done as part of the Environment Vision 2030. However, there is some level of an uncertainty on those figures. So inshallah, we'll be having more accurate results at the end of the project. Of course, the power plants is the key sector in the GHG inventory. So for sure, we're gonna have more accurate results and certain before the end of the year, hopefully.
Any more questions? Thank you again, Sheikh Ahmed.
Okay.
Now the last and final speaker of this session is going to be Mr. Arun Kanchan. Arun Kanchan is the regional manager of the Gulf Cooperation Council and works at Trinity Environment Consultancy International. He is going to speak about the industrial chemical leaks, spills, explosions, a systematic approach to simulating accident release. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Respected moderator, my fellow speakers, ladies and gentlemen, I know it's probably one of the last topics of the day, so you are pretty much the last topic, right?
Yeah.
So you are a little tired. I'll keep this brief. This presentation is interesting to pretty much everyone who's concerned with the health and safety of workers on the ground. In any industrial setting, what you have to do is to plan ahead on your response to when you have a chemical accident, a spill, some kind of an explosion, and a fire at an industrial site. What is it exactly that you need to consider in those kind of situations? And therefore, the planning exercise becomes extremely important in this case. These incidents are instantaneous. They happen within seconds or minutes, and it's too late at that point to kind of try to respond. So therefore, this presentation looks at the planning aspect. What do you do in advance of certain events? So one of the most critical planning responsibilities for environmental health and safety personnel is to actually define what kinds of scenarios are possible. So for example, if it's an aging plant and you know that certain reactors have kind of gone past their normal working life, you know that that reactor is probably prone to some kind of an accident. Or if you have pipes and other fittings at such locations, which could be actually rusty and so on, you could have a leak coming out of that, basically. So the first involves defining the possible scenarios. Secondly, the planning exercise has to be as accurate as possible. So for example, if you're if that plant is located in mixed zoning areas and you have a chemical release, a leak, you may actually want to be, you should be wanting to look at the exposure for people outside the plant, residential areas, things like that, basically. So your planning exercise should be as precise as possible, okay? The third one is the speed of the response. How quickly can you actually get to this leak, and how quickly can you actually address it, basically? So really 3 things. So the key factors would be defining the scenarios, making accurate predictions, and then responding with speed. Some of the challenges when you talk about all these planning activities is that in working with industrial plants, especially in Jubail, Saudi Arabia, and Ras Laffan industrial city in Qatar, there's a lot of people who have a lot of knowledge at the plant about the possible scenarios. You have fire chiefs who are well versed, their experience actually tells them this kind of fire needs what kind of a solution. You have environmental engineers who actually know what kind of dispersion can happen. And you have process engineers who can tell you this could be the magnitude of that accident. But in a planning exercise, what we find is not all of these perspectives are brought together. So you could end up having a planning exercise which is not complete because you don't have all these experts talking to each other, basically. So one of the things that we've actually seen as being a successful planning exercise is to actually do process hazard assessments, okay, at these plants. And these PHAs can actually serve as the basis for saying, well, this is the worst case scenario that can happen. All of these tanks can blow up. And here's the most likely scenario. Out of these 16 tanks, maybe only these 3, which are aging, will have a leak, basically. So you always have to be careful about the worst case and the most likely case, because you cannot think of all the possible scenarios. Some of the challenges with accuracy, how do you predict how far this will go out and so on? There are a number of different models out there in the public domain, some created by the United States EPA, some created by public health authorities. For example, there's models such as DEGIDIS, which is dense gas dispersion model, INPUF, Aloha, and all of these are designed to simulate, once that accident happens, how quickly these chemicals spread in air. Now, at a plant level, you have to have knowledge of these models. And if you don't have knowledge of these models, you may not be able to accurately predict what the impact of the accident could be. Speed of the response. Regardless of how much planning you do, at the right time, if you're not available, the fire chiefs, the emergency responders, if they're not available, then there's no use of the planning exercise, basically. So even the speed of the response is extremely important in these scenarios. What this presentation actually describes is a incident analyst tool. It pretty much takes the guesswork out of figuring out whether a chemical is lighter than air, denser than air, more heavier than air, and so on. It takes out all the guesswork. So based on industrial accidents which have happened in the past, this tool is geared or designed to take out a lot of the confusion that could happen in a planning exercise, basically. The tool also allows the user to simulate multiple scenarios. And what that means is, when something catches fire, you could also have the chances of a leak